Hello, hello. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. This time space sequence we call January 31st, 2020. I am Shonspeaks, and I am here today with my special guest who started with me with my first video blog, Naieema Jackson. Hello, Naieema. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Now, the last time I had Naieema on was in December.
Yes.
And she let us have it with some issues with regarding the pyramid, if you remember,
yes.
The food pyramid. And we are going to get back to that one day. We're going to do a little bit more research before we talk about that again. But we agreed that we were going to do a whole health segment where we're going to talk about health in every area of our lives. And today we decided that we're going to talk about mental health concerns.
Yes.
And so now Naieema is one with a lot of letters behind her name now. She is a MSN. She has a master's in science and nursing. Yep. She has a RN. She's a registered nurse, and a CNE. She's a certified nurse educator. So she has a lot of letters behind her name, and she has a lot of experience, and she's come into contact with people who have all kinds of issues. And so I just want to welcome Naieema back to the FYTM platform. Welcome, Naieema. How are you today?
You know what? I'm good. I'm so ready to tackle a conversation that I think many of us are so scared to have.
Yeah.
No one wants to say I have mental health concerns.
Yeah.
You know?
No one likes to acknowledge it, although I think all of us have it.
Yeah, I think we acknowledge it to ourselves, many of us. Some people don't, it's always some people in denial, but to tell someone else that.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually watching another podcast on, I'm on a Facebook group called Circle of Champions, and they were actually talking about mental health issues. And one of the ladies made a comment that we all have mental illness. And when she first said that, it kind of registered. I was like, wow, that's true. We actually all have. I knew I have it for my own reasons, but I never, sometimes you don't think about every person that we consider as a human being has these issues.
Yeah.
And so now today I want to talk about it, not as a replacement for therapy or going to a psychologist or psychiatrist or an actual certified mental health practitioner. I just kind of want to talk about it generally. And I want us to talk about it from your experience, from your expertise. I'm going to talk about it from mine and also from a personal standpoint. And so one of the things for me, Naieema, is when I had recently had graduated from law school, and I had gotten a really, really good job, and I was living in the Dallas area. And I don't know, I had been working for a couple of years, and it just felt like my life just felt overloaded. I felt like I didn't know who I was. I felt like I was getting up and I was going to work, but I wasn't really getting up and going to work, right? I just felt like I was just habitually doing something, but I wasn't in it. And one day I had went home, it was at night, and I'm telling you, it was literally like something just hit me like with a Mack truck. And I just started bawling, I started crying, I started screaming. I just could not articulate what was wrong. On the outside, if you were looking at me from the outside, my life looked pretty good. I lived in my own home, I made a lot of money, I had a great job, but it didn't seem like I actually fit in any of those roles that I was playing. And it became the pressure of that became so enormous that I got in my car and I drove to a behavior center to check myself in, because it was either check myself in or kill myself. That's the moment. That's how I felt. And so when I got there, they processed me, et cetera. And then they ended up connecting me with a psychiatrist And then the psychiatrist connected me with a talk therapist. And so I started going to therapy. And, and I know that I'm not the only one that have had experiences where you feel like life has just sort of put this pressure on you that you cannot hold. We've all had those experiences where we feel like the pressure of life is just so much to bear, right? And so have you ever had, any experiences where emotionally or mentally you just felt like you were losing, but you were not even playing a game?
I would say this. Before I answer that question, I wanted to say that even though we're talking about mental health, we're going to really focus on mood disorders like anxiety and depression in this conversation.
Okay.
And I wanted to give you some statistics before I answer personally about myself.
Okay.
Because I think it would help us and the viewers to understand that we are not alone. Okay. So if you look at the statistics put out by the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, 40 million adults in America deal with anxiety and anxiety disorder. Okay. Depression is the number one reason for disability in the world. Not back issues, not because I lost my leg, but it's depression. Major depression is the number one cause of disability in Americans between the ages of 15 and 44. Okay. Women are more likely to deal with anxiety and depression. Okay. The National Center for Health Statistics states that in the last 2 decades, suicide has gone up 30% in women. And for women of a certain age, between about 45 and 64, it has gone up 60%. And some of the things that were listed as causes are, pressure. We have so much pressure to be perfect moms, perfect wives, perfect employees, etc. And that is something that I dealt with. I've been dealing with anxiety off and on all my life. It really became a disorder for me probably in 2007 when I was in a bad relationship where I allowed society to put so much pressure on me to stay in this relationship. It really broke me down. But 2013 was when, like you said, I was going to work. I'm married. I have kids. I have all these credentials. I'm supposed to, everything is supposed to be great, right? One day I came home from work and I just had a full-blown panic attack, chest pain, etc. And I went to the ER because I didn't know what it was at first. And me being a nurse, I still wasn't sure what was going on. I just knew my chest was hurting and my mind was racing. So I went there and found out it was a panic attack.
Wow.
After that, I spent that next 3 to 6 months going to work. At that time, I was still a nurse working at the bedside. I remember clearly there was a patient of mine who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. As she's getting a diagnosis from the physician, and I'm there as a nurse supporting her, I couldn't think about what she was going through because I was having a panic attack about what I was feeling. And my kids would talk to me and I really wouldn't be able to process what they were saying because I had all these intrusive thoughts. I lost like 20 pounds. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. It was horrible. So I never got to the point where I had depression. I have generalized anxiety disorder, where we find a reason to worry about everything. What if is our best friend? Yeah. So I didn't check myself in. I actually started going to therapy. And I found an amazing therapist who really helped me to see how my thought processes kind of led to what I was, experiencing.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, for me, when I went to the psychiatrist, I got a subscription for an antidepressant. And then I started doing talk therapy, which was my saving grace, to be honest with you, because it allowed me to talk through the things that was actually going on in my head, even if I didn't process it at that time as that. It was just what's going on in my life and how is it that I don't fit it, right? And what am I going to do about it? And so I started taking antidepressants, and I'm telling you, even those pills were a lifesaver to me at the time that I took them, because they helped to, how I described it is, they gave me balance when I could not find balance within myself.
Yes.
And I can remember I was, in my condo, and I was taking the pills, and my best friend came to visit me, and we were just having fun, and she had a little friend in the area, and they were having some issues or whatever. So she came over, and she started kind of talking about it, and I said, you cannot invade the peace space right here.
Yes.
Because life is good. Those pills had me feeling like life is good. Everything's good. It's all good. Everything was good. And I needed that, because I was literally, it was like I was either high, I was low. I was high, I was low. I found myself literally going up emotionally, down emotionally, up emotionally, drop, right? And the pills gave me a balance. And I took those pills for a while. And then one day I decided that I didn't want to look at life through the lenses of whatever those pills were doing to me, from how I was seeing things. I just wanted to see things and be able to deal with it, right? Whether I considered those things to be good, bad, whatever, I just wanted to deal with them. So unbeknownst to me, I just stopped taking the antidepressants, right? And let's just say I went through all kinds of withdrawals for a couple of days.
Yes.
And then when I made an appointment to go back to the psychiatrist, because I thought something was wrong. I didn't read the packaging. And I can't say that my psychiatrist didn't tell me to not come back to him when I was ready to get off of them. I really don't know. I just was ready to stop taking them, and I just stopped taking them. And I went through a couple of days of withdrawals. When I finally went back to the psychiatrist, I was telling him, I was like, look, something's wrong, because this is what happened. He says, well, what happened? Are you taking the pills? I said, well, I stopped taking those about a week ago. He says, well, that explains it.
That explains your symptoms.
That explains your symptoms. And then, of course, eventually the symptoms just sort of went away. But I needed those antidepressants. I could not find, at that time, I had no tools or techniques that I knew of, right?
Yeah.
That would bring balance back into my life.
For me, I think because, I'm a nurse, I have that knowledge. I really did not want the medication. When I first started going through it, badly in 2007, I did take a benzodiazepine for about a couple of days, but it made me drowsy. See, I'm somebody, I don't drink, I don't do anything. So I said, this is not going to work. And at that point, honestly, in 2007, I was able to deal with it with just talk therapy.
Okay.
In 2013, which is the peak of when it was horrible for me, I still purposed in my heart not to take the medications, because as a nurse, I'm very aware of the pharmacological implications of taking those medications, right?
Okay.
There's adverse effects and things like that. So I'm more cautious. Now, let me be very clear. Medications are a great option. You just have to make sure that you're working with your psychiatrist. They were not a great option for me. Yeah. And that is why it's okay for you to advocate for yourself. Exactly. And if you know that medication is not the route you're going to take, then you have to commit to the other things that we will discuss today. And we're not going to discuss everything, because there's no way, right?
Yeah.
But you have to commit to doing your work. And I did my work.
Gotcha.
So we'll talk more about that.
Now, I just to piggyback off a little bit what you said. Now, I will say this, right? Because you're the good one. You don't drink, I do. All right. And I love me a nice glass of wine. But I will say this, and then back then when that was happening, I loved the alcohol, period, all forms, right? Liquor and wine. Mm-hmm. But when I was taking the antidepressants, the commitment that I made to myself that I stuck with was I did not drink while I was on the antidepressants.
Good.
Okay. And I was committed to that. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get off of the antidepressants was because I wanted to have a drink, and I didn't want to mix the two. Okay. All right. And I didn't want to mix the two because I had kind of seen how some people who were on antidepressants and alcohol, I didn't want to do that. And
it can have like a synergistic effect where the medication and the alcohol is making the medication work too well.
Yeah.
drowsiness and some other, issues that you do not want.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're considering medication, talk to your psychiatrist about your alcohol intake to ensure that it's safe for you.
That it's safe. Okay. Yeah. See, for me, I don't think that my psychiatrist never necessarily told me not to drink. I just think that, and maybe he did, this was a long time ago, but I didn't drink for the time period that I was taking it. And I think that because I didn't drink, I think that it actually ran its course of helping me the way that it was supposed to help me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it really did, it provided a balance, but it also, once I reached that balance and I stayed there for a while, I was able to like, okay, all right, life isn't really supposed to be sort of this constant balance state. You're supposed to be able to handle and deal with whatever life whatever happens in life. At least that's kind of what I was processing in my head.
To be able to have your emotions.
I wanted to have my emotions back.
Yeah, and have coping skills. And that's somebody very close to me dealt with major depression. And when I told them I was going through anxiety, because anxiety and depression, both mood disorders, they're treated very similarly.
Okay. That
person said, Naieema, do not take the medicine. If you can, avoid it. Okay. Because it will make you feel numb.
Yes. Yes.
And that was, I didn't want to go from being extremely, wired to feeling nothing.
Yeah. See, I needed to numb out. I didn't know that I needed to numb out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I absolutely
you needed to numb out. Yes.
But I didn't need to stay numbed out.
No.
And it's trying to find that what is that trigger period of time for every individual is different, right? For me, it was a couple of months. I needed, no matter what happened, I needed to just be like, la, 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 la. I needed that, but I did need to stay there. Right. And for me, I kind of sensed after a couple of months that, okay, this is all good, but this is also this is halting what I need to do, because I need to be able to feel whatever I need to feel.
Exactly. And I think it's very important that no matter which route you go, whether it's with medication or not, that you seek out a licensed mental health therapist.
Yes.
Who you trust. Mm-hmm. Who you trust. For me, I needed a therapist for me to be successful in my journey, a therapist who was a woman and who was an ethnic minority. That was important for me to open up and talk about the things I need to talk about without feeling judged.
Gotcha.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that somebody of a different gender and or ethnicity would have judged me, but that was my perception. Mm-hmm. And if I am seeking out help, I have to seek out help from who I believe can help me.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
And that's what helped me. And I'll just say there's several things that have helped me.
Okay.
The one thing was therapy. And if therapy is going to help you, again, you have to find someone you feel you can trust. And it's okay to shop around. But secondly, you have to go in there being 100% honest.
I knew
you can't lie to them.
Lie. Yeah.
Because sometimes we try to lie to ourselves. Okay, that's not anxiety, or I'm not sad. Yes, say I'm sad. Say when I'm supposed to be enjoying intercourse with my husband, I'm sad. When I'm supposed to be enjoying time with my children, I'm sad. Or for me, it wasn't sadness. I was anxious. I was ruminating, right? Be honest.
Accept the current situation as it is.
Yes.
And your emotion in the current situation as it is.
Stop judging yourself. So third thing, and I'll talk more about judgment because it wasn't therapy that helped me with self-compassion. It was meditation.
Okay.
So a therapist, make sure somebody you can trust, make sure you're honest, and make sure you do the work. If you guys agree on 10 minutes of deep breathing a day, you can't just do it during a therapy session. You got to make it a part of your life. If you agree to journaling with prompts or without prompts, you have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
And I did, and I do, because I see my therapist a few times a year, even if I'm having a quote unquote good year, because I put quote unquote because I'm not judging it. Years are years, things happen.
So you're saying that even though for you didn't have to take the medicine, but for those of us who have to take the medicine, we take the medicine, but we still do the additional work.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. All right. And we have to start from a place of honesty. And it's funny that you say that, because I think for me, that's what was causing sort of my disconnect, was that I wasn't being honest with myself at that time in my current situation, in my work life, right? It was one of those situations where it was like I was supposed to be happy, but I wasn't. I was supposed to feel successful, but I didn't. And it didn't matter what it looked like. I may have looked like a success. I may have looked like I was supposed to be happy, but that wasn't what I was feeling on the inside.
Yes.
You know? And I think what happened with me with the therapy, is the talk therapy, is that I got to that realization where it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not happy. I'm not happy with this current situation. And I had to be honest with myself about that, as opposed to trying to talk myself into
being happy
because I'm in a situation.
Yes. I would say this. I want to put on 2 points. One, I'm a Black woman. I don't think that's a surprise, right?
I think our skin sort of says that.
I'm also, for me, a Christian.
But I'm a dark hued girl.
Dark hued, right? You can call yourself dark hued. I'm just Black, okay?
Yes, just dark hued.
I don't say African American. I'm just Black. I'm Black, and I'm also a Christian. Those are 2 demographics of people who don't typically seek out therapy.
Okay.
So we typically suffer in silence.
Okay.
Because the Christian part of me is like, let me pray. The Black side of me is like, girl, just go to the hairdresser, go talk to your hairdresser, talk to your girlfriends, right? That's it.
Yeah. Which sometimes doing that can give some relief.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing's wrong with that.
But that should not, for me, I can tell you right now that both of those things were also a part of my healing. With my girlfriend, I have my best friend. Her name is Ashley Jennings. I'm shouting her out. She was there for me that time. That's when we started becoming friends. And the way we started becoming friends is we were going to the same church, and we would talk periodically, but she came up to me one day and she's like, Naieema, be my prayer partner.
Okay.
Hardly knew her, but I said, okay, you know what? I don't have a prayer partner. Sure. We began to share some things with each other.
Okay.
Deep things really quickly. And this woman supported me with no judgment. And she's still my friend to this day. And that was in 2013, for 7 years. No matter what I have said to her about my mental health or anything else, there is no judgment. It is prayer. It is whatever. And in terms of my Christian side, for me, I remember it being springtime when I was finally going to therapy, and then I would go outside early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning when the birds start chirping, sun start just coming up, and I would listen to the birds chirp. I would watch them do their business. And I remember a scripture in Matthew that says, if God cares about the birds, how much more does he care about you?
Okay.
And that, just those 15, 20 minutes a day, on top of all the things I was doing in therapy. And my girlfriend, and was what it took for me to get to this point. Gotcha.
Well, I think whatever works for each individual, I think is what you have to learn to do for yourself. I'm not about, a one size fit all,
no such thing,
or a one label fits all. I think it's an individual thing, right? Because you have to, if you are a person that feels like, okay, well, because this worked for Naieema, it's got to work for me. So I'm gonna do everything Naieema did, right? And then you can do everything Naieema did, and then you'll still feel left wanting. I think I think you have to figure out what it is within you that triggers that change, that triggers that comfort, not even a change, but triggers that comfort with your life as it is, and triggers that knowing that you matter. Like for me, I think I went from a place of trying, which is what I think caused my mental health breakdown at that time, to now, moving forward in my life. And it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen over a short period of time. I moved from trying to being. So when I'm in my being, I don't necessarily have to attach to anything outside of me to find sort of that comfort in just being Sean, right? I have a comfort in being Sean. I sort of know that I am a part of this world, this life, this universe, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And I have to be comfortable being me. Yeah. And I think sometimes when mental health concerns come in, because there's an uncomfortability that sneaks in that causes us not to be good with ourselves.
Exactly.
So I want to know, what are some of the different types of, mood orders or mental health issues that people can have?
Well, when you say mood disorders, you have your anxiety, depression, bipolar. So if you think about anxiety, you have generalized anxiety disorder, which is what I deal with, where we'll find anything to worry about. It can be finances. It can be anything. It can be anything.
Okay.
Then we have like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, you hear a lot of vets have that. These are people who've gone through traumatic events.
Okay.
And then they develop mood disorders from that.
Okay.
You have people who have like phobias, like, people who have social phobias, so they can't go into social situations. People who have phobias of tight spaces, like claustrophobia, right? Mm-hmm. When you think about anxiety and depression, you have like major depressive disorder. You have seasonal depressive affective disorder, where these people live in places that may not have a lot of sunlight, right? Like the West, like, Southwest. No, not Southwest, Northwest, at the Pacific West. They typically have more seasonal affective disorders because they don't have as much sunlight, like Seattle. And then you have bipolar, which is a combination of two. It can be, where you have these swing, and I'm giving you a very high level explanation, where you have a swing between depression, anxiety, depression and mania. So depression, I'm just down, I'm sad, and then mania, I'm really, really, excited. I am hypersexual. I'm spending all my money. I'm wearing all this really, 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 really bright makeup when I don't usually wear that. I'm talking this quickly and I'm moving fast and I'm aggressive. Mm-hmm. So you have that swing.
Okay. This is the thing. Now, bipolar, I don't remember hearing that name that much, maybe 15 years ago. Now I hear that term all the time now. People will say this person has bipolar, this person has bipolar. But I don't recall, like when I was, because my situation sort of occurred early 2000. And I'm not saying that term wasn't used then. It just wasn't as readily, I didn't readily hear it as much as I do now. Is that a recent thing, or is it just my exposure to that term just was limited and I'm just hearing it more now? My exposure, okay.
It's definitely your exposure, but let me just be very, very clear. Like most mental health conditions, people like to minimize it and make fun of it, etc.
Okay.
When people who are not educated or who are ignorant use the word bipolar, they're typically not using it to describe someone who goes through a depressive and manic episode. Okay. They're using it to be derogatory. That person's two-sided. Oh, she's crazy. She's bipolar. That is unacceptable. And when I hear people say that, and I have a relationship with them, I'm not just like the bipolar police, I would say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean that they're bipolar? Oh, she's just crazy. Well, what does crazy mean? Because if we keep using mental health terminology and such a derogatory term, we're going to continue in the condition that we're in this country, where people feel like they can't speak up, so they go shoot up a place. People feel like they can't speak up, so women are committing suicide, children are committing suicide. We got to change our terminology.
We got to change our terminology, and we also too have to understand that because all of us do at one point in time, or even continuously, have some sort of mental health concern or emotional concern, that we have to understand that we all are dealing with that, right? Yes. And just because mine may be more than yours or yours may be more than mine, we have to have a love and a respect for each of our sovereign, positions in this world, and not demean anybody because they're dealing with something a little bit, in a way that maybe you may have been able to handle that issue, whereas that person may need a little help to handle that issue. We need to be more cautious. More compassionate. Exactly. More compassionate. Because when I was going through my situation, I needed compassion, right? I didn't want anybody to judge me. I couldn't take it anymore, right? And so when somebody else around me is going through something, I have so much compassion for. I have no judgment, because it's like, okay, you know what? It's a process.
Yes.
You know, my only advice would be willing to go through the process. And then kind of what you say, do the work, right? Get with somebody, get with a therapist, get with a counselor, get with a psychiatrist or psychologist, and put in the work.
And I will also caution people, because it's something that I went through when I was going through it really bad in 2013, end of 2013, beginning of 2014. Be careful who you choose to seek support from. And I'm not talking about your clinicians, your psychiatrists, and you gotta feel comfortable with them. But I'm talking about people in your life personally.
Okay.
They were some of the closest people to me. Did not understand what I was going through, and I needed them to. And I remember having this conversation with this person, and I said to this person, "This is what I'm going through." I'm trying to explain it to that person, and I want you to look it up, because I want you to begin to have an understanding of what I'm going through, so that you can understand my emotional liability. You can understand why I'm not eating. And I don't want you to understand it to baby me. I want you to understand it to give me support. A couple months had gone by. I'm going through it. The person is getting mad at me when I'm having my emotional instability and things like that, right? I finally went online and printed it out myself and gave it to the person.
Wow. Okay.
Begging that person to be there and understand what I was going through.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Some people don't have the capacity to support you through it, or are unwilling to support you through it.
And you have to be okay with that.
Yes.
Okay.
And at this point in my life, I am. But at that point, I was devastated.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand? Which made my anxiety worse, because I'm trying to control something.
Okay. That word, trying to control. Right? I think that if we can get to a place where we maybe have reduced our need to control others, right? And understand that to whatever extent we have control, and that's questionable, but to whatever extent we have control, that control is limited within us to self.
And that's one thing my therapist talks to me about when I see her. She says, anxiety is about control.
It's about control.
You're trying to control. And so what I'm working on now, even though I've done my work, but I have an anxiety disorder. A diabetic, they can't get their blood sugars under control and say, okay, I no longer have to worry about it. No, you still got to maintain and manage, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with mental health. Right now, I'm working on being okay with the unknown and being able to be decisive, even though there are unknowns, because I can't control anything. I can only control what I choose to believe, how I choose to behave, and what I choose to say.
I'm sorry. You made a mention of a statistic. You said between the ages of 45 to 64, up to 60% of women.
Well, it's
commit suicide.
What they found in the last 2 decades is that suicide in that age group has gone up by 60%. Suicide in that age group has gone up by 60%.
So what would be the cause of that?
Well, they were saying it's multifaceted. It's multifaceted. But some things that were listed, and this statistic is from the National Center for Health Statistics.
Okay.
Some things that were listed was the pressures of being everything to everyone. And that's kind of what led me to, my blog post, which I know we'll talk about a little later, because we allow society to put so much pressure on us, and then we internalize the pressure, right? Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect zero. My kids are not straight A students. My marriage is not happy. I make a great income, but I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. How do I tell people I want to leave? Right?
When what you have seems perfect, How do you show the imperfection?
Exactly, without
Thinking you're
caring
crazy.
that people will think you're crazy. Because it's not about what they think, because they can think what they want.
Yeah.
Why do you care so much?
Well, why do we care so much?
I can tell you, for me, it's because I grew up a fatherless daughter. Yeah, I knew who my father was. I seen him periodically, but he wasn't there for me, right? So for me, as I got older, and I also grew up in poverty. So for me, as I got older, I needed to have this perfect image of what a family looked like. And where did that perfect image come from? Right? I also had to have a perfect image of what it meant to be successful. Educated, credentials, making a certain amount of money. Right? I had to have that because it was so opposite of what I had as a child. And I had nobody to really talk to me about, well, what is success? And my mother did her best, because she would always say education is your way out. And I'm so happy she said that, because for me, a part of success is education. And everybody has a right to have a different perspective there. So I'm happy she did that, but I didn't have the talks about, okay, so, but what about things that make you happy? And I'm not saying go through life, just doing happy things. No, because we're adults, we have responsibilities.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be happy. It's okay.
I actually think that happiness is the baseline of living. I think you're always supposed to be happy.
It's okay as a mother to do things without your kids.
Absolutely. And don't feel guilty about doing it.
Yes. I go on a girls trip once a year without my kids and my husband.
Yeah.
And I live my best life. Okay?
Yeah.
Me and my husband typically take an anniversary trip, every year without the kids. We live our best life. And my kids are well-rounded, smart, articulate, funny kids.
So what would you suggest? Because, it sounds like, okay, what would you suggest for, let's say you're talking to some women that's between 45 and 64, or even women between 15 and 44. What are some of the things that us women, and maybe even men too, of course, we're not excluding our men from it. What can we do to naturally sort of find a balance within ourselves emotionally and mentally?
I think it's quite a few things we can do. I think everybody needs to go to therapy, whether or not you think you need to. I think that's one of the things we can do. I also believe in meditation. Okay. Meditation is also another avenue you can take, because it teaches you to be okay with your emotions, your thoughts, and how you feel, without judging yourself and others. So it taught me self-compassion. And it taught me to be still in a world that's constantly moving.
I like that.
Another thing someone can do is journaling. How I started my journaling is I started off with reflection of, well, when I'm feeling a certain way, what choices do I make? What am I telling myself? What's going on at that time? I started reflecting on that a lot.
Gotcha.
And that helped me to make different decisions. I'm a woman. My emotions are going to be all over the place. Does that mean I have to tell my husband off every time I'm about to get my menses? Does that mean that I have to flip the person off while I'm driving on the side of? Because no. So journaling has helped me to reflect on my behavior, on my choices, and the emotions and things surrounding that, so that I'm aware. I say, okay, I notice that every time I feel this way, I get into an argument with my spouse.
Okay.
And the only reason I know that is because I've been journaling about that off and on for the last few months.
Start paying attention.
So today I feel that way. So I'm going to say to my husband, baby, today I feel irritable. So if I'm a little bit quiet today, it's not because I'm mad. I love you. So start just being honest.
Yeah. So it's being honest, and then it's recognizing your own triggers.
Yes.
And taking a different approach or a different action so that you won't have that same experience again.
Exactly. And something that I was doing that I wasn't doing when I first started journaling that I do now is every month, I journal several times a week, but at the end of that month, I spend the next couple of days, like the first 2 days in the next month, reading back that month.
Yeah.
And then I'll make like little notes like, okay, yesterday I was in love, but 2 days later I wasn't. What was happening? What was it? Right?
What happened? What changed?
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, I think what people have to realize is that you take you everywhere.
Everywhere.
So even though we want to say that, I want to say, Naieema, you made me mad, but you really can't make me mad.
No,
that mad has to already be in me. You just triggered what was already in me.
Yes.
Right. And so I love your suggestion about journaling, which, I think everybody should journal and write, because it really does help you to start to pay attention to yourself. And you start to see that, okay, all of these things that I've been putting out on other people, they were in me.
My choice.
That's the reason why day one, I could be in love, and day two, I'm not. Right. Because it really had nothing to do with the other person. Right. Because I can only give out what I have in me anyway. I can only give out what I have within me.
I would say this. I'm 100% in agreement with everything you said. Isn't it empowering to know that you have a choice?
Yes. Yes. It's absolutely empowering. It's so empowering. Yes, it really is.
And for me, just with this anxiety disorder, it has been so empowering to know that I don't have to control everything.
Yeah. 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 It's what, over the years, it's what's finally got me at a place of, some people would say, Shane, you're always happy. And it's like, oh, okay. Yes, most times I am. Right. And I think the reason why I come across like that is that even when I'm not quote unquote happy, I'm not letting the outside control me. Yeah. I'm just having to deal with the fact that maybe I'm sad today, or the fact that maybe today is a tough day. And I can just say, today's a tough day. This is one of those tough days for me, right? But I don't get caught up in that feeling. I just allow the feeling to be, you know what I'm saying? Because I know that if I just allow it to be, like you said, 2 days later, I'll have another feeling.
Exactly.
Right? 5 minutes later, I may have another feeling. Right? As opposed to being stuck on that feeling and going around and around and around in a feeling that I don't even really want to have anymore, or that's not even necessary anymore, because sometimes we get caught up in old feelings that don't even apply right now.
Yes. But
we never just allow it to be and float into the next moment of life.
Yes.
And so, so I totally, I have this thing about taking 100% responsibility for your life and no longer blaming. Right?
Stop saying other people.
Exactly, because I have 100% ability to respond to my circumstances. And so now I don't look out and say, somebody made me mad or somebody did this. It's like, okay, you know what, Sean? You got to make sure that you're feeding yourself who you want to show up as in this world.
Exactly.
So that when stuff happens around you, you can allow it. Yeah, because those things are not within your control.
Thank you. And stop judging it. Just for me, I'll just say, I feel sad right now.
That's just what it is.
And that's it. I feel sad. Versus before, it's like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm happy. No, this is not that serious. I'm sad. I'm one of those people that when people meet me, they think that I have it all together. So because of that persona that I chose to put on, because in my mind, the other end is being weak and, super emotional, where I'm really super emotional. I just don't show it to people, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm mad because no one is checking on me. No one is just texting me and say, hey, how are you? Checking on you. Because it's like, Naieema, she has it. Everything is okay.
Yeah.
And there's never a time in my life or anybody's life where everything is 100% okay.
Yeah, never.
But we choose, the way we choose to react.
Yeah.
Is what matters. And, one thing I learned in meditation is to say things like, this is stress. Stress is a part of life.
Yep. It's a part of it.
Exactly.
And this is my moment. And this is my moment to feel it.
Yes. I'm stressed. Right? This is stress.
Stress is I know it's a part of life, and I know it's just my moment to feel it. I know that it's an opposite feeling waiting for me to experience at some point too.
Exactly.
I'm gonna flow into that opposite
whenever
moment.
that happens.
Right now, I'm stressed.
I'm stressed out. I'm stressed. This is a part of life, and I do my deep breathing that I learned in therapy. And you know what? It is what it is. I've learned not to be. I'm so compassionate with myself now, which has helped my anxiety disorder so much. Before it was like, Naieema, you keep having these ruminating thoughts. Why do you keep thinking like this? Why do you keep feeling this way? Meditation taught me, oh, you're thinking, aren't you human? Look at you being human.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, I'm human. Okay. Like, I'm human. I may think a little bit more than other people because I have this anxiety disorder, or I may not.
Oh yeah. No, I think self-love and self-belief and learning to just be comfortable with who you are. I think that if you do that, you show up, you show up as a masterpiece in life. I'm beginning to realize that I am a masterpiece, right? And if I look at me as the masterpiece, then that means that I am both the art and the artist. So now I'm trying not to force life anymore, right? I'm trying to stop forcing people or things outside of me to be a certain way and just allow them to be, right? While I carve who I want to be. And those things may adjust and change as I grow, right?
Are you trying to tell me that you're not putting unspoken expectations on yourself and others? Okay. I just want to just put that out there, because I know I'm queen of unspoken expectations. And when you don't meet it, it's like, what?
What? You didn't do that? I didn't know. You didn't share that with me, right? But that's what we do though. But that causes frustration, and that can cause us to get sort of caught up in having mental health concerns.
Yes.
Mental
health concerns, there's chemical imbalances and stuff like that go with it. But some of it is also environmental. We're choosing to stay with that person who's no good for us. And it's all about what they did. And I said to one young lady, because she was talking about her boyfriend, how horrible he is. I said, you chose to stay. You're choosing to stay. So can we focus on your choices?
Okay, so let's put a pin in that one, because we're doing whole health concern. We're doing whole health segments. So let's maybe the next one, or at some point, do whole health in relationships. Because I think sometimes in relationships we don't like to deal with the fact that we're making a choice. Right? Because it's easier to feel like you're sort of stuck or you're in a forced type situation, as opposed to thinking that, every day you're choosing to stay. And that's not to say that it's easy to go. That's not what I'm saying. Right. No. But sometimes it's just a matter of just of taking the power of, this is my choice. Because once you accept that you have some choice in the matter, you also accept that you have power in the matter. Yes. And then once you have, that you have power in the matter, now you have authority in the matter. And then once you have authority in the matter, now you can say, you know what, I can express myself differently now, right? Exactly. But I think that whole health in relationships is a whole segment by itself. We would be able to do it justice right here.
February is Love Month. I think it will be
February is Love Month. So whole health in relationships, February 2020. That's what we're going to do. Yes. Now, you wrote a blog for the platform, and I want you to first kind of tell us a little bit about the blog, and then you can read the blog, and then we'll close out.
Well, new year, new beginnings, right? That's what society tells us, right? Like that January 1st, you need to be new, right? And, I fell into that years ago. And having an anxiety disorder doesn't help when you don't meet that resolution that you set, that society told you is so important, right? This is, so I wanted people to read this blog and understand that if you are making a resolution, you are acknowledging there's something in your life you want to change.
Okay.
Right? But why do you have to wait until January 1st? Why are we so hard on ourselves when we don't?
It's the new year.
It's a new year, new me. I'm the same Naieema Jackson that I was on December 31st, 2019. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, nothing wrong with goals, but goals that you set for yourself and not societal pressures. Mm-hmm. So I wanted whoever reads this blog to understand that they are powerful. Gotcha. They are powerful to make the choices that they need to make and to not put unnecessary pressures on themselves. I wanted them to be empowered to celebrate themselves as they reach the goals that they set, no matter when they set that goal. It can be March 21st.
So today could be a new year for some people.
Forget the concept of new year. It could just be you want to change, and if the change is being driven by what society is telling you, make sure that's really what you want.
So it's about you making a decision about what you want to make a decision about.
Exactly. And not comparing yourself to anyone else.
Gotcha.
Because, we do that, right? Mommy blogs, that mom is breastfeeding. Hey, my child has similar, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Well, perfect. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you for you to read your beautiful blog.
Yes.
Let's go for it.
Yes. So the blog is entitled, Who Said Resolutions Are Important Anyway?
I like that. Okay.
Affirmation. I am taking back my mental health.
I am taking back my mental health.
Yes.
Love it.
It is that time of the year again. You know what I'm talking about. It's January and it's 2020. We have the start of a new year and the start of a new decade. At this time of the year, many of us feel like we can start all over. We can lose those extra 10 pounds. We can begin to save for that vacation. We will finally take the steps to quit the job that we no longer want. We make these resolutions because we acknowledge that we want change in our lives, right? We have every intention on executing them. This is exactly how I felt a few years ago when I finally decided that I wanted to be more present for my children. Now, I am always there for my children, but I want to be honest. Technology often takes my attention away from them. So like everyone else, I made the decision to make a resolution to be more present when I was in my children's presence. For the first couple of weeks in January of that year, I was on fire and executed my resolution effortlessly. Well, little by little, I noticed that I wasn't as present as I wanted to be. Rather than adjust, I became very judgmental and hard on myself. I put so much pressure on myself to do well and to do what other mommies were portraying online. It did not help that I had and still have an anxiety disorder. Those of us who deal with mood disorders, such as anxiety and depression, are often hard on ourselves. It made my anxiety worse, and I began to have panic attacks. After suffering with it for a while, I had enough. I finally began going to therapy. There, I learned the importance of spirituality, positive self-talk, and reflection through journaling. I also began to meditate regularly, and it has taught me self-compassion. I've stopped comparing myself to others. I no longer put so much pressure to meet resolutions at the top of the year, or at all for that matter. I now give myself goals when I feel there's a need for change, even if it's in June. I choose to adjust when I realize that I am not meeting my goal. I also choose to celebrate every little accomplishment I have made toward the goal. As Mark Twain once said, comparison is the death of joy. Affirmation. I am taking back my mental health.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
I love when you said, I now give myself goals when I feel there is a need to change. I think that we allow ourselves to be sort of our GPS for this life that we're expressing right now, right? We'll know when, we'll have that inner feeling, that inner knowing when it's time to adjust.
Yes.
When it's time to change.
Yes.
When it's time to have a new job or a new career or a new relationship or a new body or a new whatever it may be, right? You'll know when it's time to change. It's learning now to connect with that inner knower, so that when you hear the trigger, right? When you hear the prompt to make the adjustment, you won't fight yourself. You will make the adjustment, you will make the change. And that could happen any day of the year.
Yeah.
Even
and it's
today.
Okay. Yeah, and it's okay to know that you know what's best for yourself. It's okay to trust your decision-making ability. Exactly. And please don't think that this is a blanket statement of never listen to anyone else.
Oh, no, it's not that.
Right? But we know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. You have to trust yourself because there's only you that's living in your body. And that's really where that self-compassion, because we were so trained to beat ourselves up and you're no good and you're this and you're that. And it's like, now it's like, okay, you know what? I trust myself. I accept myself. I matter, right? I love myself. You know, I try to, I follow Louise Hayes' suggestion. You know, sometimes I look in the mirror and I just say, I love you, Sean.
Yes.
What can I do for you today?
Yes.
And today, right now, today, my friend Naieema Jackson, back on the FYTM platform.
Yes.
Always so appreciative. I appreciate your knowledge.
Thank you.
Your wisdom, your passion for what you do.
Yes.
And you know, and I love knowledge because I like to, you know, I like your mind, to connect with my mind, and I get a better mind. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. And we will continue our whole health segment. I think we're going to do relationships. I think we're going to tackle that. Naieema, you ready for that? That's a big one. That's a big one.
I'm ready.
All right. Free thinkers, thank you so much for joining and listening to our podcast with Naieema Jackson. And we will definitely be back next month sometime with a new whole health segment, hopefully on relationships. Ashe, free thinkers, ashe, may what you say manifest in your life today and every day. Happy Friday, and see you next time.
Yes.
Take care.